What's up everybody, this is the 2023 GMC Canyon, and in this video I'm going to be covering this AT4 version as well as the AT4X, the Elevation, and the Denali trim. So I'll be covering them all here. And so as far as the brand new Canyon, well, it's on a new platform. The wheelbase has grown by 3.1 inches. The whole vehicle overall is almost an inch longer than before. It's a tiny bit wider as well, but it also has shorter overhangs, so you have better approach and departure angles for those off-roaders that, you know, want to take advantage of the maximum capabilities of these trucks. But otherwise, I mean, I think styling, it looks really nice. I really like how you now have standard LED headlights here and just a really good look up front there, and very aggressive, especially here for the AT4 version with these Goodyear Wrangler all-terrain tires on it and the extra lift you get here on the AT4 version. Coming down to the sides here, again, the bulging fenders. I like the little marker lights there in the fenders. And going out to the back there, you also have some nice and simple taillights, but I think they look pretty good. And I also really love how the tailgate there, it's the usual kind of tailgate. These are only available, by the way, with a crew cab short box. That's the only body style they come in anymore. But as far as that short box goes, it's still got lots of tie downs. You have a power outlet there. And the one really cool trick here for the new Canyons is that you have this new storage box built into the tailgate itself. And so a nice little extra hidden place to store some stuff, and just a really creative use of space here. And I'm really glad they introduced that here. You also have little steps built in to get into the bed nice and easy. And so I think overall the styling, they really knocked it out of the park. It looks so sharp, so aggressive. And then even for the Denali version, it looks nice and classy as well. So it really plays both sides so well. And I think it's just a great looking truck. The interior in the GMC Canyon is really nice regardless of which trim you get. They all get an 11-inch touchscreen that has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, really nice high resolution, has Google built in, and it's really a nice system. You also get 8-inch digital gauges as standard. You can even go up to an 11-inch digital gauge display in these if you want. But, you know, the 8-inch screen still to have digital gauges in this segment is really nice, and something that most of the others don't offer. And so, you know, even just as far as the standard stuff goes, you got a lot of really great tech. But as far as the other niceties here, so I'm in an AT4 now. Now you can go down to an Elevation trim and have it a little simpler, or you can go all the way up to Denali and have it even nicer than this one. The AT4 is kind of a nice mid-grade here, but it's still really nice and luxurious for a mid-sized truck. It's really impressive. So first off, these seats, you have these really nice perforated leather seats. They're heated and cooled here, and feel really good. I mean, they have good support, and I like the stitching here on them, and the kind of two-tone coloring here you have with the brown leather combined with the black, and just really great seats so far. The steering wheel is also a really cool design. I love the rounded airbag cover here. Has a great 9-3 grip. This one's heated as well here in the AT4, and just, you know, a good amount of buttons here on it, but nothing overwhelming. Everything you need and nothing you don't. You got a few little buttons on the back here even. And then, yeah, those gauges have a little bit of customization. They have a few different looks for them, which is cool. And you also have an off-road kind of page where it'll show you, you know, the angles and the pitch and all that. And so it's nice that you have all of that stuff. I wish there was maybe a little more customization of exactly which metrics were being showed, but beyond that, I think it's really a nice set of gauges. You also have an optional head-up display. This one does have it. It's a 6.3-inch head-up display. It has nice large fonts for the speed and all that, so it's a little bit easier to read than some of the other head-up displays out there. Coming over to the center of the dashboard, though, like I said, you have that 11-inch touchscreen, works really well, and it's really nice and snappy too. Like whenever you load Google Maps, I mean, the pinch to zoom and all that is immediate. It's just as fast as your smartphone. It's great that we finally caught up with smartphone technology as far as these infotainment systems in these vehicles, and so really well done. The wireless smartphone integration worked flawlessly so far with the amount of time I've been driving here. And other things about this screen, so it also does have various camera displays. So in this AT4 here, you have a variety of cameras. You have forward-facing cameras, rear cameras. You have a tow hitch camera, so it helps you to line up a trailer a lot easier. There's even an underbody camera, so you can you know, see the obstacles you're clearing, and kind of a fun thing. And that camera is protected, so hopefully it won't get banged up too much. And then there's off-road pages, so you can go into that. It'll also display your drive modes and all those different things. And a lot of the stuff is customizable too, which is great. So if you have frequently used things, you know, you can always have those here in this little sidebar. And you know, tuning radio stations, all those types of things are nice and easy to do. You do have a volume knob, which is nice and made out of metal. Other things, so it's also hooked up to this optional Bose 7-speaker stereo. It sounds pretty good from the little bit of listening I've been listening to, just with Sirius satellite radio, things like that. Sounds pretty good, but I'll need more time to really, you know, check that out a little more. But coming down, you have really nice little chunky controls here for your climate, and just a few buttons here for all your other climate controls. Really nice the way that's laid out, in my opinion. And other things is the padding here. It's really plush. I mean, you have padding up here on the dashboard. You can see this little bit of like a faux carbon fiber kind of design there with the AT4. You can also get laser etched open pore wood in the Denali, which is really cool. But I mean, even just the stitching and everything just makes this really a lot more high end than basically everything else this competes with. It's really impressive. And even like the padding down by your knees here, both on the door side and on the transmission tunnel side, is all really plush feeling. And again, it just wows me that we're in a mid-sized truck that's this nice. It's really impressive. And you have a few more buttons down here for a few other basic things, some USB jacks, a wireless charging pad, which I did try using the wireless charging pad for about an hour or so driving today, and it does not work very well. Most of these wireless charging pads don't make good contact. They're slow to charge. This one, unfortunately, seems to be pretty much the same, and so I don't think it's a must-have feature. So that's my only disappointment here on this interior, honestly, is the wireless charging pad. Otherwise, you know, a nice knob here for your drive mode selector. You also have lots of cubbies here. You have a couple in the doors. You have your cup holders and the center armrest, which is pretty softly padded. You open that up and you see a double layer cubby here, and even a little power outlet down there as well. The only other couple of things I have to mention is that you do have a sunroof now available, and this one has it. It's really great to have a sunroof here in the Canyon for the first time. But headroom is compromised, and according to the spec sheets, it appears that you've lost about 1.1 inches of headroom here for the new Canyon. So just keep that in mind. If you are someone on the taller side, you're going to want to sit in one of these, make sure that it fits you comfortably. Me being 5'9", I'm not going to be, you know, crunched for space, but I feel, you know, like I still have plenty of room here for sure. And also, you also have a slight bit less room in the back seat as well. So moving on to the back here, again, me being 5'9", with the seat in the position that I have it in for a comfortable driving position, I still have about 3 inches of legroom there to spare sitting behind myself. So not too bad, you know, as long as you're not super tall or your passengers aren't super tall, you should be able to fit, you know, 4 people comfortably in this. The way this little center console comes out, though, you don't have much knee room for that middle passenger, so they'll have to be even shorter yet to fit comfortably there. But, you know, still, it's a mid-sized truck. It's kind of what you expect. You know, none of these are super spacious or anything, but still a good amount of space. You also have a fold-down center armrest. They do have their own cup holders, air vents, USB jacks, even a power outlet there lower down. And so, yeah, overall, just a very nice interior, regardless of which Canyon you get. They're all very impressive, and this did such a good job with this new interior. But let's start up and go for a drive. So the Canyon here has a typical GMC key, though. It's a nice key, has a nice weighty feel to it, a little bit of metal here on the sides, or, you know, metal plated plastic, but a really nice key, not too big or anything. And of course, it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off here in the 2023 GMC Canyon. So I'm starting off here in an AT4 trim, and we'll be doing some off-roading in an AT4X later. We'll also be driving the Elevation, the lowest trim here, as well as the Denali, which is the nicest one. So I'll be able to give you a sample of what everything's like across all these trims. And so starting off in the AT4 here, you obviously have the higher right height here of the AT4, and I'm surprised though that it's actually really nice and smooth. You still, even with these all-terrain tires, I'm up at, you know, almost 50 miles per hour now. Still really nice. I mean, this road's pretty nice and smooth here, but you know, it's really impressive just how comfortable it is, even for the AT4 version here. But thanks to that high seating position here, I mean, you have a really good view forward. You know, obviously it's a pretty small truck still, so great view out of all the glass, and you know, very easy to maneuver. It doesn't feel like it's too big or anything, and so a very, you know, comfortable vehicle to drive in that regard. And we have a few corners here, and we'll test out the AT4's handling. All right. It's actually really nice and flat. I'm really impressed with the handling, much better than a lot of other mid-sized trucks that I've tested in the past. I mean, this is nice and flat, and certainly a good bit better than the previous generation. You have a longer wheelbase here, about 3.1 inches longer for the new Canyon, so that's certainly going to help you have a more stable and planted ride, better handling. You also have really nice steering. I like how it's, you know, not too heavy, not too light, just really feels right and appropriate for a vehicle like this. Throttle response is also really good. This 8-speed automatic is pretty nice and responsive as far as giving me a downshift whenever I need it, but I don't really need very many downshifts because this 2.7 liter high output turbo 4-cylinder is really strong. and you can really ride the turbo for a good while before you even need a downshift. And climbing hills and things like that, you know, you're gonna have plenty of power just, you know, in whatever gear you're in. Brakes are also nice and natural feeling. They do exactly what you're expecting them to do. Very easy to be smooth with. They bite right towards the top of the pedal, give you some, you know, confidence-inspiring braking action there. And so all the driver inputs are really well done here in the Canyon. I'm really happy with the way this thing drives. And now we're going over some ruts here in this dirt road that we're on, and it's of course going to do totally fine. The AT4 has all this extra equipment on it to, you know, make sure you have better off-road capability than a regular Canyon, which also they all have, you know, great off-road capability in general, but the AT4 takes it one step further here, and you know, it's just the stepping stone to the AT4X if you really want the crazy stuff. But this is still going to be more than enough, I think, for a lot of people. But all the intense off-roading we'll be doing later in the AT4X. But in the meantime, you know, obviously just doing this totally fine. I'm still in two-wheel drive and you know, just a normal dirt road. But you know, this is the kind of typical stuff that, you know, a lot of buyers of these vehicles will be doing, is, you know, going off the beaten path a tiny bit, but, you know, not doing rock crawling or anything like that. And so for this kind of stuff, I mean, it goes through all this without breaking a sweat. But one important bit of off-roading hardware you do get here with the AT4 and the Denali trims is a limited slip differential, so that'll help you to put the power down better than the open rear diff you have in the elevation trim. The truck can also help you out with an auto mode for the four-wheel drive system, so it will select what it thinks it needs and, you know, do that all intelligently, so you don't have to mess with the four-wheel drive controller if you don't want. And there's also drive mode selectors if you do want to get a little more involved. You can go in, there's of course the normal mode, but they also have an off-road mode, a terrain mode, and also a tow and haul mode. And so those will all help you to, you know, have a little bit of a more specialized, you know, throttle mapping, and, you know, just customize everything and custom tailor, you know, the shift points, all that to help you to, you know, have the best performance possible here. And if you go up to the AT4X version, that also has a Baja mode as well. And now I'm in the off-road mode just to give it a try here, and you know, it's still in the two-wheel drive mode though, so you can still have it in that mode and still have the happy antics of two-wheel drive if you want, which I personally love. You know, sliding the back end out a little bit here on these dirt roads is always fun. And yeah, this thing still is handling, like I said, it's handling it like a pro. I mean, not breaking a sweat at all. You know, again, the tires are largely to, you know, thank for that too. Just so composed too. I mean, the ride still, even on this crazy stuff, isn't terrible, and it's soaking it all up without breaking a sweat. I can't wait to see what the AT4X version with its Multimatic DSSV dampers does, but this thing is already very impressive. But now we're back onto a normal road. We got a nice straight road, so let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. And here we go. All right, a little bit of a delay there before it gave me full boost, but then it accelerates really nicely, and so a good amount of power here. This 2.7 liter high output motor, it comes standard in all Canyons. They all get the top rated version of this engine. It's one of the perks of going for the Canyon here over the Colorado. And so it does 310 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque, which is really impressive. I mean, that makes this the hot rod of the bunch easily as far as midsize trucks goes. I mean, it is a lot of power. I mean, that's more horsepower than the old V6 and way more torque than even the old diesel, which, by the way, the diesel isn't available anymore. Neither is the V6, and neither is the old base naturally aspirated four-cylinder. All three of those engines went away. We just now have this one engine here. And yeah, I don't think really anyone's going to complain about it because this thing is so strong. The motor's been really reinforced and built well to handle all the, you know, extra stress of this higher output version as well. So it's really just impressive and plenty of power. They didn't quote any kind of 0 to 60 time that I could see just yet, but I mean, it still should be, you know, good amount of power here. And we got a tunnel here, so I'm gonna see if we can get some sound out of this turbo. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a, you can hear that whistle a little bit, and yeah, this thing is pretty strong. Obviously, it's not tuned to be, you know, race car sharp with the reflexes there. So, you know, the transmission's a little more relaxed with its shifting whenever you got your foot to the floor there. You know, it's not going to be super snappy. You don't have any kind of paddle shifters or anything like that. You can manually shift here on the shifter if you'd like, but aside from that, that's it. But again, this is a truck we're talking about, not really expecting anything, you know, sporty, but it still just does a really good job, really nice and strong. And I think it has a good sound too. Yeah, I really like this engine a lot. Yeah, I'm going to test it out more in the other trims as well. But here in the AT4, it's great. And also, you know, now up at some higher speeds, once again, this road's a little bit rougher. We're on the Blue Ridge Parkway here. And you have a little bit of road noise, but it's actually really quiet and refined. They did a lot of extensive work to give you some more sound deadening here, make this more refined than the previous generation Canyon as well. And so you pay for that with a higher curb weight. These have gone up several hundred pounds in weight, so that's not ideal, but the trade-off here is that you do have much more refinement. But in a vehicle like this, curb weight isn't really that big of a deal anyway, so, you know, just one thing I wanted to note, though, is it is a good bit heavier than the previous Canyon. But, you know, even on these gentle corners here now on, you know, paved roads, it still handles really nicely, even for this AT4 version with these kind of tires, you know, which you can't really ask much of it, but it has no problem. It has pretty high limits for, you know, what it's working with here, and so I'm really impressed with the way this whole thing's set up. All right, so now I'm setting off in the elevation trim of the Canyon, and so this is the base trim for it, and so it has, you know, the more ordinary tires, but still has, again, that high output motor, same power, which I think really makes this probably one of the best values of the bunch if you don't need the off-road stuff or the extra luxury. I mean, it's still so nice in here. You know, a little less, you don't have all the soft padding you had in the AT4 and the Denali, but still, you know, really nice in here with all the other soft touch materials and stuff. And still got that nice strong engine. And so I'm going to be testing out, you know, how this rides. I mean, I think it certainly feels a little smoother than the AT4, but honestly, I really have to take my hat off to the AT4 for just how smooth that rode on those all-terrain tires. But this is still really nice. They're certainly a little less lean, feels a little, you know, more agile in corners and stuff. Man, this motor I really love, though. I mean, there's power all over the place in the rev range here with this thing. It is great. Still feels just as quiet, maybe even a tiny bit more quieter thanks to the tires as, you know, the other versions, but you know, every bit is refined in my opinion so far. I haven't driven the Denali yet, but at least as far as the AT4 is concerned, this is still really nice in here. All right, so now I'm on that same trail here as I was in the AT4, and I'm trying it out here in the elevation trim with the open diff and trying to go on the acceleration here. And you can definitely see it's a little more squirrely here in two-wheel drive. Of course, I can just put the four-wheel drive mode. I am using the off-road mode, and that's certainly engaging the traction control to help me out a little bit there, where, you know, the lack of a luminous lip diff is a little more apparent. So it's using the electronics, but it's really doing a good job still. Again, I'm still just leaving it in two-wheel drive here, making it as hard as possible for this thing. And even without the better tires and, you know, all the other stuff, it still is doing a really good job. And so, I mean, all these trucks are going to be so capable. And I mean, this isn't like the most punishing trail or anything either, but you know, it just goes to show that you don't really need to go crazy on, you know, one of these Canyons just, you know, to have decent off-road capability. They all have really good off-road capabilities still, and it's still so much fun. I would argue it might even be a little more fun depending on your setting, but this is just, it's still so good. And now back on some normal roads here in the elevation trim. I do have to note, though, these are still Goodyear Wrangler all-terrain tires. They're just not as aggressive as the tires on the, you know, AT4 and the AT4X. But yeah, they're still truck tires, still have good, you know, off-road capability and all that. So you know, that's why it still performs so well. But yeah, you still have a nice blend of, you know, also good on-road comfort in addition to that off-road performance. All right, so now I'm in the Denali version, and I'm just doing what most of the buyers of a Canyon will probably do, and that's sit behind rush hour traffic, just cruising along. And so in this kind of thing, this is what the Denali is especially good at. You know, you have all the luxury here of the Denali trim, all the extra luxury, I should say, over the AT4, which is already, like I said, really luxurious. So one thing that I did have time to sample some more here is this Bose stereo. And I also got to sample the bass stereo in the elevation trim. And comparing the two back to back, I gotta say that the bass stereo is actually still really good. It's really clear and crisp. The only thing is it just has a little less power to it, so whenever you have, you know, stuff with a lot of bass, this Bose stereo really shines there and really gives you a nice, strong, and more powerful sensation. And so, you know, that's really the only thing, but you're really not missing out on a ton not getting the Bose. So just keep that in mind if you're shopping between the trims here. But otherwise, the Denali is really nice and smooth, of course, very comfortable. And we're sitting behind this loud truck, and you can barely hear it. So they really do a good job with the refinement here. I mean, it is crazy, the huge leap that they've made in refinement and comfort and just to make this a next generation truck, and it truly feels next generation, not only compared to the last generation, but compared to other competitors, even the newest competitors out there, like the new Nissan Frontier, things like that. I mean, this is still head and shoulders above that as far as refinement and comfort goes. And they did a really good job here on these new Canyons. And now, moving on to the AT4X. We spent a whole morning driving them on a very fun trail in the mountains of North Carolina, and it really showcased what the AT4X is capable of. The AT4X upgrades include an extra inch lift for 10.7 inches of ground clearance total, outboard mounted Multimatic DSSV spool valve dampers, locking front and rear diffs, a unique rear axle, and 33-inch tires on beadlock capable wheels, additional skid plates, and the Baja Drive mode I mentioned earlier. There were also some Edition 1 trucks present, which gives you a winch, a steel bumper with safari bar, upgraded skid plates, and front and rear underbody cameras. But as far as my impressions go, I don't do much off-roading, so I'm no expert in this kind of setting, but overall it was very impressive to me. The smaller size of the Canyon really helped on this trail, which was pretty tight in some places, as you can probably tell. And these tighter trails are where this truck really will shine, and it's where the full-size stuff can't even go. At one point I had maybe 2 inches to spare on each side of my mirrors. It was pretty tight there, but the Multimatic dampers were very impressive with their travel and with how well they coped with the rough terrain. I never doubted the truck, and even on a challenging uphill section that required 4 low, I just kept the throttle steady and let the truck do the work while watching the handy forward-facing camera there when all I could see through the windshield was sky and trees. It tackled the mud pit with ease and overall just gave me total confidence in its capabilities all morning. The beefy torque of this motor also felt great to use in this setting. And then heading back after the off-road fun, the AT4X was still smooth, comfortable, and refined. Its ability to do incredible things off-road and then drive home in total comfort with really no compromises is one of the most impressive things about it to me. Lastly though, let's talk about fuel economy and pricing and how it compares to the competitors. So the EPA rates the fuel economy at 18 mpg in the city, 23 on the highway, and 20 combined for a two-wheel drive Canyon. That drops down to 17 mpg in the city, 21 highway, and 19 combined for the four-wheel drive version. And then stepping up to a model like the AT4 or the AT4X with mud terrain tires will cost you 1 more mpg on the highway and drops the combined figure down to 18 mpg. That is slightly lower than most of the other competitors, but all the competitors have less power than the Canyon, so it's just the price you pay for power, but it's close enough to the competitors as far as fuel economy goes that I don't think it's really much of a sacrifice for the huge improvement in performance that you get with the Canyon. And then lastly, let's talk about pricing and how it compares to the competition. This year is a big one for mid-sized truck buyers that have been waiting a long time for some fresh offerings. The Canyon and the Colorado are beating pretty much everyone to the punch other than the Nissan Frontier that was introduced last year. And later this year, we're going to have a new Ranger and Tacoma, so we'll have to wait to see, if those went up the Canyon in any way or not. But as of the spring of 2023 here, though, the Canyon is currently the most powerful in its segment and has the best tow rating in its segment too. It's 7,700 pounds. Being a GMC though, it does carry a price premium over the non-premium brands where the Chevy Colorado is really the more direct competitor, with the Canyon starting at $38,395 compared to the much lower $30,695 starting price for the Colorado in its very simple work truck trim. But even the next trim up of the Colorado, the LT, is $33,000 with much less power, halogen headlights, and a few other downgrades as well. So spending another $5,000 for a base Canyon, that might be a big leap for some, but if you value the extra performance and the upgrades that the GMC brings, like those LED headlights, I definitely think it's worth the extra money. And with the competing trucks also likely getting upgrades of their own this year, they may not be much cheaper than the Canyon either. We'll just have to wait and see on that one, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if all these trucks are going to start, in these higher $30,000 price ranges, for a lot of them going forward, at least for their nicer trims. And then as you can see, the higher trims of the Canyon can get pricey, as you can see there with the extremely limited edition 1 maxing out at $66,540, which is a lot for a mid-sized truck. But if you're someone that values that smaller size, especially off-road, at least now the interior and the refinement feel closer to that price tag than past mid-sized trucks did, and that extra power really helps it to feel more worthy of those higher price tags as well. Overall, I really enjoyed my time in the Canyon. I think they did a great job with this new generation. But let me know your thoughts on the Canyon in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming. Thank you all very much for watching. Thanks to GMC for providing this opportunity, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.